I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm experiencing a little bit of modern movie fatigue right now, so take that into account when listening to this review. But here we have a movie about a foul-mouthed, beer-swilling, tattooed Santa Claus, and I thought to myself, didn't we already cover this ground with Billy Bob Thornton? Let's discuss. Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it. Do it!
Violent Night follows a family of rich yuppie assholes whose home is broken into by an elite team of mercenaries. The family is taken hostage, however, these thieves didn't account for one thing. It's Christmas Eve, and Santa Claus is in the wrong place at the wrong time, John McClane style, motherfuckers. At first glance, a movie about Santa Claus beating the shit out of some bad guys, old school action movie style, does sound appealing. And Violent Night is very much a mixture of Home Alone, Die Hard, as well as a little bit of Bad Santa. Only it's nowhere near as good or as memorable as any of those movies that it's referencing. I'm going to start out with a positive though, because I do think that David Harbour was an excellent choice to be Santa Claus. As an actor, he's got this right mixture of being able to be very warm and welcoming, but he also has the potential to be a complete badass as well. And he brings both of those things to the table for this character in this movie.
Besides that, it's all in the reflexes.
He shows a more sensitive side when we see him losing his faith in Christmas, and even questioning his own importance as Santa Claus. And I really enjoyed that little tidbit of character development for him. We also get to see his badass side, of course, when he gets pissed off and goes all Viking Raider on people, and starts bashing people to death with a sledgehammer. Unfortunately, like in most cases, I feel like the script for this movie does fail David Harbour just a little bit.
No shit.
Now, I understand that this movie is very much supposed to be cheesy and campy. It seems like a lot of movies are supposed to be cheesy and campy these days. But I gotta be honest, I think that's used way too often as an excuse for piss poor writing. And I think nothing makes that more clear in this movie than the dialogue. Holy shit, the dialogue.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
There's a lot of dialogue in this movie that probably sounded cooler to the writers than it actually ended up being. A lot of modern movies feature very unnatural sounding dialogue, and that's the case, I think, here in this movie as well. And again, it's always difficult to tell whether that's because of the script itself or the performances, but some kind of disconnect is happening here, and either way, it's set up John Leguizamo, who is the villain of this movie, to be in contention for maybe one of the worst performances of the year. Every single line of dialogue that came out of this man's mouth was cringe-inducing.
So you might as well fucking kill me now, because if I ever see you again, I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Which makes me think that maybe it's more the acting or even the direction, because David Harbour had some questionable lines also, but he does seem to pull more of them off than some of his counterparts do. I've said this before, but silly and campy only really works if the audience is in on the joke. And some people will find enjoyment in it, I get it. But I don't know about anybody else, but in my theater specifically, and there were people there, it was dead silent throughout the entire course of this movie. Also, you know how in modern horror movies lately, a lot of the victims tend to be excessively mean or horrible people, so when they die, we don't actually give a shit about them? It's kind of the same energy here, only unfortunately, I'm not just talking about the villains. I'm actually talking about the family itself that's being held hostage. Most of this family are complete pieces of shit, and it actually had me rooting for the villains at times. I'm just kidding, nobody's likable in this movie, really.
I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
Actually, that's not true. The little girl in this film is wholesome and likable, which makes me think that maybe she's a better actress than some of her adult counterparts are. You just feel really bad for her character that she was birthed into this family that is the equivalent of the seventh circle of hell. The little girl is also responsible for the one moment in this movie that I found most enjoyable. Her character just having got done watching Home Alone for Christmas. She gets into a situation where she sets up some booby traps for the mercenaries that are holding her family hostage. And the traps work, this time in brutal detail. Imagine the paint can on a rope scene from Home Alone, only this time you actually get to see Harry's face imploding. That was fairly entertaining, but it's also kind of sad that this movie's best moment is merely a reference to another movie. I also found the violence to be pretty decent as well. Lots of gimmick kills with Christmas inspiration. I can't say that I was necessarily impressed by anything, but some form of violence is usually pretty entertaining on some level, so I think some people will get enjoyment out of that.
Just a sick world we're living in. Sick people.
There is a more heartfelt message in this movie as well. You just have to sift through the blood and body parts to find it. And it all really has to do with believing and keeping that Christmas magic alive. It does make for some clashing of the tones at times, but I did at least appreciate the attempt to give it something that at least somewhat resembles a traditional Christmas theme, even if those ideas aren't that original or effective.
That makes sense.
I think what this movie to me is lacking most is charm. Now you would think, given the premise, that it would be loaded with charm, and some people may think that it is. And I think charm is what made the movies that it's trying to emulate so popular. I just found a lot of the vulgarity and debauchery to come off more mean-spirited than I did charming. Trying way too hard to be edgy with its over-the-top characters and cursing. Or its sight gags about reindeer shit, or Santa puking on someone from his sleigh. And it just came off as very juvenile to me. You can call me pretentious if you like, but it just really didn't appeal to me at all.
No, don't like that.
A lot of the comedy just comes off as cheap laughs, more so than it does witty like they think that it does. I thought at the very least this movie might add its own little wrinkle to Santa Claus lore. But no, even all of that was pretty standard. You got the reindeer, you got the magical entrance through the chimney, which by the way is used in a pretty cool moment in the finale. You got the naughty and nice list, you got the magical black hole Christmas bag. I didn't find any of it to be all that imaginative or ambitious to speak of.
Not impressed.
Overall, it feels like Violent Night is a missed opportunity, if anything. This could have been something really fun with these cult classic vibes. But it feels like it wanted to be a cult classic so bad, but you can't force a cult classic onto people. You need to give them something to latch onto. Like, I can imagine a situation where this movie was made in the 80s, for instance. And I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger was Santa, delivering one-liners in an Austrian accent as he stabs people in the cheek with a sharpened candy cane. I guess he had a sweet tooth. I think that situation would have given us the movie that we are looking for. But modern filmmakers don't seem to know how to take these quirky ideas and turn them into something that is halfway decent. At least not without tired cliches and obnoxiously forced characters and dialogue. Some may get some enjoyment out of it if you check your brain at the door, but to me, Violent Night is more than deserving of the Angry Rocky.
The dreaded stinks!
Y'all be cool. Right on.